So the first thing I want to say is thank you for this opportunity, and I've already had the opportunity to thank Doug for allowing me to be here and talk to you today. Of course, if I'd been invited sooner, I would have been here sooner. You know, one of the things I think about when I'm falling asleep at night anticipating today is that there's a lot of tension in the buildings and also in this room. I can feel it when some folks are walking in. And it makes sense that there would be tension because the kind of decision that we're talking about making is, you know, very highly emotionally charged. And I often think to myself, geez, what could I have done as president of CTA to make it easier? You know, and I often, you know, second guess myself. Maybe if I would have just come out here sooner. Maybe if I would have been the person in the meetings, you know. And then I realized that what I did was what I typically do. I assess what the situation is, and I try to put the appropriate staff people in the appropriate meetings. And, you know, we did the best we could. I did the best I could. And, I really do apologize if there was any part I played in creating, you know, some of this tension. That was never my intent. You know, my intent was really to communicate, you know, something to you all that can be really clear. You know, the main thing you need to know, Modesto Teachers Association, CTA needs you. We need your voice. We need your support. We need your vote. We need your opinion. We need you. And you need us. California Teachers Association, 325,000 members strong. You're a very powerful chapter. We're a very powerful union, and the power comes from us standing together as one. But I tell you, part of the reason you're powerful is because of your connection to the California Teachers Association, and you know that as well as I do. As part of CTA, you worked tirelessly to help pass Proposition 30. I mean, I know that you gave up a furlough day to be out in the community and knocking on doors and talking to neighbors and doing the work that only teachers and educators can do. And you should be very, very proud of that. It was part of a huge statewide effort that was orchestrated statewide by CTA, created by CTA. And because of CTA and because of that work that we all did on Prop 30, you're not feeling those budget cuts this year that you felt the year before and the year before and the year before and the year before, and you're seeing more resources in your classroom. Your retirement benefits have remained intact. A year ago, the fear from everybody was that there was going to be an initiative on the November ballot that was going to really impact our retirement system. That initiative's gone away, and that was directly a result of the work of the California Teachers Association and myself and other leaders, oftentimes doing what we got to do in the back rooms of the policy brokers, the policymakers, and the power brokers in Sacramento. Another thing that hasn't happened is those initiatives attacking our due process rights are gone. And they're gone because of that same work. And that same work isn't because there's something magical about me. I mean, for crying out loud, I'm a kindergarten teacher from Vacaville. That happened because of the California Teachers Association and the strength of the California Teachers Association. And that strength is born out of us standing together, all for one and one for all. Your students aren't taking an outdated STAR test. The STAR test is dead. That's directly a result of AB 484 that was carried by Bonilla, but born in the governor's office with conversations over a long period of time with me and with other folks speaking on your behalf. We're not using student test scores to make high-stakes decisions in California for 3 years. That's also part of AB 484. That happened because of the California Teachers Association. And every time I say the California Teachers Association, I should be repeating that means all of us. The reason we're strong is because we stand together. And by the way, you know, just because of your connection to CTA, you got access to all of the CTA trainings. You don't think that people bargaining on your behalf haven't been in CTA-sponsored and led bargaining trainings? Or people doing grievances on your behalf haven't been in those same trainings? It's part of the way we work together. It's part of what we do. I know there are a lot of people in this room, certainly a lot of people in this district, that have been to trainings around the Common Core state standards, and I'll tell you, some of them are just downright awful. But the training that is being held up as a model, not only to all of California, but the rest of the country, is the training that's being done by the California Teachers Association. I know that some of you have access to that because you're affiliated with CTA. Talk to people in your buildings who've been to those. They'll tell you it was worth it. It's good stuff. What about your school board elections? You guys do a good job organizing your members and organizing your communities, and I ought to salute your leadership team. You do a good job of getting the right people elected to the school board, but you need to know that over the last 15 years in those school board elections, $150,000 that you've used in those elections have come from CTA. And just in the last while, $80,000, where 7 out of 10 of your candidates won. That's a big deal. You've got a wealth of member benefits. You've got all of that stuff that we talk about. I'm often wondering, what is this really about? And I always like to ask myself the question, I bet some of you are wondering, how did we get here in the first place? I mean, somebody in CTA had to say, hey, wait a minute, we got to do something about that. And so, that begs the question, so who was it? And what is the that? Well, the who's really easy. The who was me. Because I was the guy sitting in my office in Burlingame, and I will tell you, being a kindergarten teacher from Vacaville, the last thing I ever imagined was that I'd be sitting in a union office in Burlingame, responsible for what's going on with 325,000 teachers. But one of my staff came in and said, we just discovered something going on with the Modesto Teachers Association. We've got to run it by you. What it was one thing. There's a payment that's made that's a combination of CTA and NEA money that comes into this local for the express purpose of paying the employer for the professional staff that serve you all. And what we learned, or what I was being told, was that's not really what's happening. What's happening is the district is the employer, and the district is being reimbursed for the cost of releasing the professional staff. And I did what I typically do. I said, well, okay, I'm really not all that conversant in this. What do the rules say? Show me the documents. And they were very good. They showed me the rules. The rules say the money must go to the employer. Period. It's not ambiguous. It's very clear. So they said to me, I said, well, look, the rules are very clear. And they said, well, what do we do? And I said, that's a rhetorical question. We do what we always do. We are squeaky to a fault clean. We follow the rules. We follow the law. So here's what we got to do. We've got to put some people together that have got to come out and meet with the MTA leadership and tell them that there appears to be a violation. Is this really the way it's working? And if it indeed is the case, we got to help them figure out how to fix it. That's the issue. There's no other issue. I've been hearing all kinds of things like, we're saying you have to hire CTA people to be your staff. False. And I don't know where that's coming from. I just know it's there. I'm hearing that we want you not to be an option 2 anymore. That's false. You're an option 2. MTA as an option 2 really means this. What you decide to do as a union, as a democratic group of people, is your business. It's not our business. You can hire who you want, how you want. You can do your work however you do it. The only obligation we have is to meet our agreement that we made long ago with option 2s. And oh, by the way, you are one of 23 option 2s in the state of California. You are the only option 2 that is not the employer. Somebody asked me, well, how do you know that? And I said, well, that's really easy. Just check who fills out the W-2 form. The money is supposed to go to the employer. End of issue. But there were a lot of other things that came up in my mind. You know, I try to put myself in your seat. I try to be a member here because I would be asking this question. Well, hey, wait a minute. If that's the only issue, why are we here? There's got to be something else going on. And I'll tell you, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what it is. And I will tell you that one of the things that came back at me, and by the way, this is my first time here, so I haven't been talking to any of you individually. A couple of you folks on state council, we've talked in passing, but I haven't had that substantive kind of conversation you've got to have to understand what's going on. What I've been doing is I've been listening to some of my staff and some of my leaders that have been talking to your members. And so I've been hearing things that they're being told. One of them, that we're trying to control what you do and how you do it and when you do it and why you do it. That we're trying to be the big parent come in here and change who you are and how you are. And that's just not true. This isn't about local control. You're an option 2. The only thing that changes whether or not you're an option 2 is that you do not reapply like you do every year to be an option 2. Another question I could ask, well, hey, wait a minute, if it's been an option 2 for so long, why is it that we're just hearing about this problem now? If we've been an option 2 for like 20 years or so or longer, and we've been operating this way, why is it now that CTA is coming and saying something? And that's a great question. And I'll tell you, I did a lot of investigating internally because, look, I've only been the president of CTA for 3 years. So I haven't really been at that level, but some of the people that are presently working for CTA were here that whole time looking at the documents that were being submitted to CTA by this local association. And the paperwork all named MTA as the employer, and so we assumed that was true. We gave you the benefit of the doubt. You're an option 2. Why should we question that? There was no reason for us to question it until one of your past employees was having difficulty with STRS payments and came to CTA looking for legal assistance, and one of our staff people said, well, that's kind of crazy. Why would a professional union staff be having a problem with STRS? There must be something that I don't know about. That's when we looked through the thing with a fine-tooth comb, and that's when the question came to me that I just described earlier. It's not about CTA trying to take control over this local. It's not about local control. The issue is around some individuals that are having difficulty. At least that's what it seems to me. And I could be way off base here, but it certainly begs a question. Like, what's really going on? Like, if MTA was really interested, I'm talking about MTA leadership. I'm not talking about you all that had to scramble to get over here at 3:30 at a time that's just really difficult. You know, I'm not talking about why would a meeting where we're trying to get as many people as we can in the hall start at 3:30 when half of the people who'd like to be here can't even get off their site yet. You know, these are the kinds of questions I'm asking. Like, what's really going on? If we really wanted to have
a serious, thoughtful, cogent argument debate around what the issues really are. Why is this the very first time I've been asked to come here and talk to you? Those are good questions. But what I hope you'll do is I hope you'll be asking them too. I'm so glad I brought notes. Anybody know what time it is?
3:40.
3:45. So I still have 15 minutes. So let me take another tact. Let's just suppose that the predicament that we're in isn't about big bad CTA with the big bad union thug president, that would be me, trying to come in and demand that you all stop doing what you're doing and start doing everything differently. Let's just suppose that what this is a crisis that some individuals are dealing with around retirement. If that really is the case, how does disaffiliating CTA change that? I mean, that's a great question for me, and I've been asked that question practically every day. Because I know what disaffiliation does. I mean, to a rank and file member, it means that all of that stuff that we do for you, and there are two threads there. There's the thread that's the training and the opportunities that we provide for you. And it could be Common Core state standards training. It could be the work that we do trying to bring National Board certified teacher applicants together. It could be the stuff that we're doing around trying to transform the profession and help people learn how to work more collaboratively to build better practice. All that stuff that the association does, when you disaffiliate, gets locked out from you. Not because we're trying to be big, bad, ugly people. It's just that that's a benefit of membership. And so again, I ask myself, geez, I don't know how many times I've just said to myself, really? I mean, really? It would seem to me that if you put thoughtful people in a room, and I'll tell you something I know about your leadership, they're pretty thoughtful people. And they work pretty hard on your behalf. And they've done a phenomenal job of building this local. So if you've got thoughtful, committed people in MTA and thoughtful, committed people in the California Teachers Association, why is it that we can't sit down and figure out how to fix this problem? Because we've tried a number of times. And every time we get right to a point where we think we've got some kind of way to move forward, and I haven't been in those meetings, but I've been getting reports of those meetings. Every time we get to that point, within about 24 hours, and it might be off here, it might be 18 hours, it might be a day and a half, but what happens is we get a call. And that call typically goes like this: give us everything you know that we have to have, or we're going to disaffiliate. I want it in writing, and we're going to get what or we're going to disaffiliate. And I get stuff like that, and I think, there's got to be something more going on here. I wonder what it is. I wonder what it is. You see, we want to honor the independence you have by being an Option 2 unit. That's never been a question. You control whether you're an Option 2 or not. We don't. But there are rules. Rules that all 22 other Option 2s follow. And then that begs the question, why don't we just look the other way? I mean, it appears we've been looking the other way for a long time. Why now? Well, it gets right back to that thing. When you are recognized, not only around the state of California, but around the country, as a powerful force fighting for public education, fighting for the rights of public school teachers to be the pedagogical decision makers in their classroom, fighting off high-stakes testing. There are a lot of people coming after you. There are a lot of people that want to weaken you. And because of that, what we've done is we've developed this idea that we have got to be squeaky clean. I think I said that already. Squeaky clean. We've got to follow every rule to the letter. We've got to follow every law to the letter. So like when I said before when I was talking about this, somebody asked me, what do we need to do? That's a rhetorical question. What we're going to do is we're going to do the right thing. The sad thing is that there are remedies to this situation. There are remedies to this situation. There is a way out of this situation. And it's not disaffiliating. And that begs the same question. So, what is this really about? I've seen the different CTAs made in our profession. I've seen what's been happening in the last couple of years in California. As the president of the California Teachers Association, I travel all over the country on your behalf. And one of the very first things that people ask me, how the heck are you doing that? How did you get them to throw away the outdated tests? All over the country, they're taking 2 of them. How come you guys aren't a race to the top state? All this other stuff that you're reading about happening in New York and Tennessee and these different places, it's not because of the Common Core, it's because they signed on to Race to the Top and they signed on to the NCLB waiver. And they're mandated by statute to have teacher evaluation based on test scores and seniority provisions in contracts to be changed. It's not happening in California. Why is that? That's an easy question to answer. You know the answer as well as I do. It's because the California Teachers Association and the strength of the California Teachers Association has made it almost impossible for those folks in policy positions and in power broker positions to move that crazy agenda. And the California Teachers Association is MTA and 1,000 other locals around the state of California. So I'll tell you what it really gets down to for me. Like, I try to put myself back in that kindergarten classroom I was teaching in, or back in that 3rd grade classroom I was teaching in, or back in that 5th grade classroom I was teaching in. I was a classroom teacher for 20 years, and I was the elementary school counselor for 10 years after that. I try to put myself in one of those seats and ask myself the question, would I rather be standing in the same group with the rest of my peers in the California Teachers Association? Would I rather be 325,000 members strong, or would I rather be striking out on my own? I think that, it seems like such a no-brainer to me. You got a very difficult decision to make if you're not paying very much attention to what goes on. And I will tell you this, and it's important for you to know this. I got elected to the board of directors in 1996. I was on the State Council of Education for a couple years before that. So I've been at the leadership in this level for a while. I've seen 2 other disaffiliations in that whole time. Out of 1,060 districts and a little bit over 1,000 chapters, 2 disaffiliations. Begs the same question. I wonder what it was about. Well, I can tell you what one of them was about. In Corning High School, where I was, up standing talking to a group of people, there were 5 folks running that whole local, and they'd made a very sweetheart retirement deal with an MOU that nobody got a chance to vote on. And it made people mad. And they started trying to push back, and they were getting bullied. And they were asking us to come in and try to help them sort it out. And the local got this idea. The local, which was 5 or 6, and for lack of a better descriptor, I call them bullies, because when I was in the meeting, they tried to shout me down and they tried to, intimidate me physically, because they're pretty big guys. And the thing is, I've just been doing this for so long, I don't get intimidated. But it also begged the question, why am I hearing from some of you that you're afraid to step up and say what you really feel? That's a question you should be asking yourselves. if this is a democratic union, if every single person sitting in the leadership circle of this union is there because it's the will of this body that they're there, and the decisions that are being made are made because it is the will of the body, that's a whole different story than if what's happening is you're being moved to disaffiliate because there's a problem with a few individuals. That's the issue. And I'll tell you what I hope you do. And I know there are a lot of people speaking after me. I hope what you do is you go back to your building and you ask yourselves the kinds of questions that I've posed here. And that you ask yourselves to get really, really informed about what the real issues are. I got a call yesterday from a member who called Burlingame. And I always get, if a member calls me and I'm in the building, the direction to staff, and stop whatever I'm doing, put me on the phone with a member. And the very first thing she asked me was, you know, I've just heard so much, I just got to know the answer. I got to know the answer. And the question was, is it true that we have to hire a CTA staff person to be our executive director? And I said, look, you're an option too. You can hire the manager at Safeway to be your executive director. That's not the issue. The issue is if we're giving you $280,000, it's got to go to you, the employer. It's got to go to the employer. And right now, MTA is not the employer. Another thing she asked me was, well, all this stuff is urgent. I mean, you know, we got timelines. And, you know, like, okay, let's just say we vote to be, you know, stay in CTA. We don't want to disaffiliate. We got to stay in CTA. But, God, if we got to hire an executive director, we got to do a search, and we got to do interviews, we got to get people. I mean, what if we can't get it done in time? What if we're not going to meet the timelines for the Uniserv agreement and all that? And I said the same thing to that person that I just said to all of you. We have tried over and over and over again to put the right people in a room to start the conversation to figure out how to get this fixed. And every time we think we're right about there, something happens, and I have no idea what it is. But that's when we get the call and say the deal's off. The only thing that's going to work is you sign off on what you've always been doing and leave us alone. So, I'm going to leave you with this question. Does it make sense to you? I was in the governor's office, I've been president for like 4 or 5 months. And I was in the governor's office looking right into his eye when he told me that he wanted the state to start paying its fair share of the STRS payment, but he wanted it to come out of Prop 98. And I said, oh, before I answer that question, let me tell you what I just told a reporter. I told a reporter, you're a good governor to work with because you look me right in the eye and you tell me the truth, even if I don't like it. So let me look you right in the eye and tell you the truth. Over my dead body, state payments come out of the general fund. They do not come out of Prop 98. And the governor said, well, then what are we supposed to do? I said, that's easy. You and I know Prop 98 well enough to talk about it to a lay person. But there are probably only about 4 people in the state that know it well enough to get this thing fixed. And it's not you, and it's not me. It's John Mockler and Karen Getman and Anamana Santos, who is sitting right over there, your own staff. Put them in a room and figure out how to get this solved. And the governor said, okay. And they did that. And so the budget for the 11-12 school year did not have the state continuing its payments or recontinuing its payments with that money coming out of Prop 98. Does it make sense that somebody that would fight that hard to protect the viability of Prop 98 and STRS, somebody that would fight to be sure that STRS stays viable and whole, does it make sense that same person would say, oh yeah, I know there's this issue with STRS, but let's not worry about it. It's been going on long enough, it'll be okay. It doesn't make sense to me. You know? So like I said, it appears that the word is getting out. It appears that people are talking to one another. I encourage you to keep that up. I encourage you to learn as much as you can about what the real issue is here. But I will tell you right now, as sure as I know my name is Dean Vogel, it is not about CTA trying to come in here and tell you how to take care of your business, or CTA telling you who you should hire for the staff person, or CTA telling you can no longer be an option 2. You get to be an option 2 as long as you want to, as long as you follow the rules. And that's enough out of me.
Thank you. At this time, we're